Hello again and welcome to another Izzy tutorial. This video is looking again at the control panel. I encourage you to look at the previous video which explored just the basics of opening it up and plugging a few things in. That should give you a good head start. This episode is looking at more the context of VJing, which is a situation in which you'd want to access lots of different parameters very easily. You don't necessarily want to be navigating around a patch. You want to have an interface which is easy to use to control effects and choose videos. So it's an important front end that allows you to access the back end that you built for a particular kind of activity. So let's have a look at the patch I made in a previous video when we're looking at video mixing, and you can see I've just got two movie players and they're sending video down through these effects to a video mixer out to the projector, and I've got my stage here, and if I change the mix on this video mixer I can mix from one video to another. So I've got some fireworks and some butterflies currently. So even just finding the video mixer and moving the slider is a little bit fiddly. So it would be nice if we could have something that's just a little bigger, easier to access and closer to some of the other effects and parameters that we want to manipulate. Similarly, the effects, we might want to turn these on and off, but we don't necessarily want to have to navigate the patch to do that. And most importantly, it's choosing the clips. You know, how do we access the clips in a way that gives us a lot of control quickly? So let's jump in and open up the control panel. So I'm going to go to View and Actor Control Split. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this option, the stage preview. So I'm going to bring this out. Now the stage preview doesn't have a control ID that we plug it into. We double click on it, we can choose which stage it's previewing. But this is a really important actor in this context, because quite often if you're working in a club, it'd be ideal if you could see the stage and the projections, but it could very well be behind you. Having a way to work within the control interface so you can see what's happening. It might be that this window is closed altogether to give yourself more room. So having something scalable and that's close to the control panels and just part of that architecture is a useful thing. So this is our output mix. The most important thing might be then the mixer itself. So let's find something to mix between the two videos. So I'm going to choose the slider, and by default we get this slider that's set to vertical, and we can very simply click and drag this corner and make it long ways. And I'm just gonna actually give myself a lot of room to breathe here. Gonna drag it all the way out here, so I've got a nice big slider. This is about making an interface that feels right for you, and this gives me our first control ID, which is number 1. So let's hook that up to the video mixer over here. So I'm going to click and drag that number and drag it to the mixer mount, and let's give that a test. So again, go to Controls, Disable Edit Mode, and I can now slide between one and the other. So that's, you know, a little bit easier to use than just jumping in there and clicking that and then bringing up the slider and moving that. And more importantly, in terms of the hierarchy of the interface, the things we want to use, this is now front and center. It's our main control. It's not buried in a list of parameters on one actor, but it's then buried in a patch. it's our main control interface. So that's what working with the control panel is about. It's just reordering the hierarchy of the values that you want to work with. So already that's quite pleasing. It would be nice though to see one image whilst I'm working on the other one. So imagine I want to change something about the butterflies, but while I'm mixed in the fireworks. So kind of work behind the curtain. Now let's put something in so we can see that before it gets to the video mixer. So this is an option here called monitor. If I make this a bit smaller, so monitor is a bit like the stage preview, but it's a specific video feed that we need to tell it where to go. So we've got number 2 there, and this time we've not seen it before. I'm going to drag it not to an input but an output. So I'm going to drag it here, and we can see then that output gets a little tab there, and the monitor shows the feed coming out of there. We can't see it in the video stage output because it's not mixed in, but I can mix that in and we can see it appear. But crucially, this allows us to make some changes. So I could turn the threshold off and we can try them out. Maybe that's not so good. I'll put it back on, but maybe I'll change the color that I'm mixing to. Okay, I like that. Now I'll mix that in. So it allows us to work and make changes within our patch in a way that's hidden before we send it out to the projector. So we've got one. Let's add another for good measure. So I might actually just copy and paste this. Generates me another number 3, and I should be able to click on the video out of my second output, type number 3, and so now we have a mixer and 2 little preview monitors. So already this is feeling a lot easier to use for me because I'm not having to guess. I can prepare my changes and then mix them in, and actually that slider is just, you know, it just feels a bit nicer. Again, thinking of hierarchy, what are the next most important choices we might want to make? Well, it's probably the videos themselves. We could add something that clicks in here and we could make a menu, but since this is such a common use, that Isadora gives us a really good tool to use already, which is called the bin picker. So if I bring this out, it actually gives us all these thumbnails of our video files from our video bin. So I'm going to stick this on the left here, and you can see if I drag this out, I can see more or less. We're going to address that in a second, but I'm going to set this so I can see at least 6 of them. And I'm going to set this control ID number 4 to my first movie. So you can see I'm putting everything on the left there, and let's have a flick through that now. So we can see, again, this clicking on a picture, clicking to select it just makes a bit more sense because we're getting a visual preview of what we're actually going to select. But at the minute we can't access all of them, obviously. So let's make a couple of adjustments to this bin picker. I could extend it down, but I want to leave a bit more room for me to play with. So let's jump in to the settings, and I'm going to choose this one, the scroll option, and I'm going to choose to put some tabs at the bottom. So click OK, and now we can see, there we go, we've got these numbers here, 1, 2, 3. So now I can click these and see some of the other clips. Notice that the GIFs themselves, I've got some GIFs in there, they're not generating an image, a thumbnail preview. So again, you might want to think about, in that situation, just take the time to recompress it as a video file. So this I'm enjoying this. This is pretty handy. I can easily go find the one I want, and then I can mix it in or out. So we just need another one for the other side, don't we? So let's copy and paste that. Gives us a new number automatically. I'm going to stick this over here, and let's hook up this to the second movie player. So now I should be able to mix these two. So we've got mosaics there, and then butterflies. Well, let's have some Kermit. Bring some Kermit in. So already the value of this is I don't have to worry about all this stuff on the right hand side. And in fact, when it comes to working in that VJ situation, I'm only using a small bit of the area now, but I could give myself a lot more room to work with. And this is where we change the view. So instead of an actor control split, I would choose to not hide controls, but go to view and show controls. And now you can see my patch has gone. So now I could start building lots of effects and other things here to the right. I'm going to just work just in this little small area for now. And the last thing I'm going to do is just change a couple of effects. So let's get the split back up. So what can we do? Let's maybe just turn these effects on and off for now. So let's have a couple of buttons. So this one's going to be called the threshold. So let's double click this. I'm going to make it a toggle button because it's going to be either on or off. And I'm going to invert it, and I'm going to give it a colored indicator. And finally, I'm going to give it a name so I know what it's called, or what it's doing. So let's drag number 6 to the bypass function, and we should be able to now turn that on and off. There we go, on, off. So again, accessing our effects a lot more easily. Let's copy and paste that button, and let's add this to the slit scan. So it's keeping all the settings such as invert and toggle, but I just need to give it a new name. Slit scan. There we go. So now again, just accessing them really quickly means you start to play with it a lot more like an instrument. Which is that's part of it. It's performance. You're creating an instrument for yourself to perform with. And it's only going to be as good as the interface you create for it, and that's about having fun, really. So I could go on and add a couple more buttons here, obviously, but I'm hoping I won't do that now. But I'm hoping just from that you get the principle. You can see how you can start to really take control of your video mixing interface, control if effects are on or off, how they're applied, to what degree. So that you can perform with it. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you again for another video soon.